And welcome back. It's another terrific TBI Tuesday, and you got me, Jamal from RVA, and this guy.
Justin from Richmond. Catch me on the socials.
That's right. And we are back again with another episode. So today I wanted to kind of start off with something that has kind of been on my mind here the last couple of days. And what I'm about to say is not anything that you haven't heard before. This is nothing novel or some big revelation. But I want to start by outing myself, right? So Justin and I had a conversation about an Olympic athlete that the media that I was consuming at the time was portraying as a trans athlete that was competing in women's sports. And I apologize because I can't remember her name.
The first name's Amane, but I don't remember the rest. I want to say they're from.
Is it Turkey?
Yeah, I don't remember. It's a Middle Eastern country close to the Russian bloc.
Okay. Well, everything that,
Albania, I believe. Something like that. Go on. Sorry,
yeah, no,
sorry.
no, no. Everything that I was seeing was saying, oh, it's a trans athlete, it's a trans athlete. And I felt some kind of way because I think there's that biological men should not be competing in women's spaces. I think if they would like to compete, I think we should set up leagues that allow them to compete in any manner that they want to compete in. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had some very colorful opinions about the situation, and yeah, I vented. And then later on, it comes out that this person is a biological woman, has always been a biological woman. No evidence that I've seen or anyone has been able to provide that would speak contrary to that fact. So I owe her an apology, even though I only spoke to my guy in confidence. But I'm saying that to prove a point, especially during election cycles, excuse me, there is a preponderance of just fake news. If I can use one of former President Trump's uh, most well known lines, right? You have to do your research and verify all this information because it's a lot of it just simply isn't true. And then a lot of it's also doctored. I mean, shamelessly doctored. Did you see that video that got promoted by Joe Rogan that was promoting
Oh, okay.
Kamala Harris?
Oh, okay. Then no. Okay, I thought you were gonna go with just so we can put a little tab on it. The picture there was a side by side picture with Princess Di and Amane, which definitely not Albania because that's not. But anyways, yeah, but we can talk about that 'cause you're talking about doctored
Hmm.
photos. Because Princess Di had a lot of like really sharp features and stuff like that, but they weren't nearly as sharp as they were in that photo. And Amani has very sharp features, but were very softened in that photo. And they're like, oh, look, she's more feminine than Princess Di, but everybody loved her and said she was a perfect lady. But yeah, like for lick spittles, yeah, I mean, I could get that they may not know the difference, or like very young people who may not have that face to remember.
Mm.
But I mean, Princess Di was a lovely looking woman. I mean, there no issue with that. Which we can talk about presidents and beautiful women here later on. Let's put another earmark in the book for that. But I'm sorry. Go
No, no,
on.
no. I was just saying, did you see this video of Joe
Oh, I didn't
Rogan?
see it. No, I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
Yeah. Well, so there was I forget who cobbled it together, but there's a video of him and he's a well-known podcaster and he talks about everything. So they put together a montage and edited this video, and it's like a video of him, almost of him endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris for president. And so, of course, he comes out and he's like, "I never said any of that stuff. Like, this is false." And it just goes to show, and this like went crazy viral. Like everybody's like, "Oh, is Joe Rogan like is a Democrat, whatever, whatever." Um, it. it was adopted by a lot of people that should probably have known better. And it just again goes to show how people will put stuff together and put it out there to influence public opinion. So I think Joe Rogan has a lot of conservative viewers. He has a lot of independent viewers, and I'm sure he has some liberal viewers as well. Um, but that really was like kind of shocking to me. It shouldn't have been, but I found it shocking. Um, I also watched a video about how AI is at this level now where it can create real time deepfakes. And this was, I'll see if I can link the video from YouTube, but this YouTuber did it on himself, and it morphed him between himself and his video producer in real time while he was talking, doing hand gestures and everything. So they've got the capability to have the deepfake generated and an AI that goes behind and corrects it in real time. And it's scary good. It's scary good. So this is just a TBI warning. Check and double check everything you're seeing, especially right now because fake news, fake videos, fake information is here to stay. I mean, like Dave Chappelle said
But
at the
was
age
it a
of 30.
fake hat?
Someone else?
But what I was trying to slide was like, is it a fake hack? Because you're talking about fake this, fake that. Like, because there's a conspiracy around whether or not the the hacking that occurred on the X interview between Musk and Trump last night was actually done by a foreign actor, or if it was done internally to create additional controversy because the assassination was attempt was such a galvanizing event. Oh, what if they're trying to stop him from talking to billions and blah 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 blah. I mean, if anyone did it, it was either anonymous or some source in Europe because they had expressed severe concern and had warned Elon Musk that he would be on the hook if they started spouting a bunch of craziness and false news. Because in the EU, they actually have regulations against false information. So, yeah, there was some of that, but I guess you haven't seen that one yet.
No,
But I was just trying to be cute and add a fourth fake on there while you're
well, no,
pointing at the fake ones.
I think it's a legitimate hack. I don't. That's not what I'm talking about. I think though that Elon Musk has been the target of a lot of uh, not hacks, but what would you call it? Heavily edited video releases. So he's no stranger to this sort of thing. And I know he's come out strongly in support of former President Trump. And so I mean he had to know he was going to take heat for that. Um, but I think it was just a just a video created to influence public opinion, right? I think that's what it was, and that's all it was. I'm sure it's been taken down by now, but I mean, the damage has already been done. Um, but people just have to be aware of this. That this misinformation, people say propaganda, whatever you want to say, misinformation campaigns. It's nothing new. It's just gotten more effective over time, right? And I think you just have to be aware of that and just think about what you're seeing, think about what you're consuming, and think about what people are showing you. So that's my 2 cents. Be careful out there with what you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. I mean, it's like I used to say in the early parts of the podcast. I'm like, always check three sources, two of them you don't agree with.
Hmm.
I still believe that that's a good way to go. I mean, I see a lot of things and I'm not entirely comfortable with but I guess just because I just really prefer the truth,
Hmm.
even if it's an ugly one. Maybe maybe that's just a different thing, but um, I think it just but I also think that's what's wanted because people are more easily manipulated when they are not thinking critically or even willing to entertain a worst case scenario. That's why people are able to do things that are absolutely atrocious because most people don't think of really dark or jacked up stuff like some things that people do.
Hmm.
It doesn't cross your mind, so how would you guard against it? And that's why like there's that whole mentality that there are men, go with the phrase, there are men that do things that are never mentioned in the public sphere that the public would never agree with, but has allowed them to maintain that way of life. And that's very much the way that things are here in this country in particular. I mean, it was an American quote. Um, because there are things that are done that if you were to just give the abstract to the public, many would say, oh no, that's a terrible thing, or that's infringing upon this person's right, or that's maybe some sort of international law violation for human rights and things like that. But at the end of the day, we all look out for our self-interests, and sometimes, especially when it comes to government, there's a lot less of the human aspect there. Government is pragmatic by nature, mostly because it needs to be, and that's, I think, why democracy and government don't tend to get along for very long, because democracy is where more concerned about person's feelings and the majority rule. The majority rule may not necessarily be the correct rule, so that's why representation is so important. But unfortunately, representation tends to be diluted in a lot of governments like ours. An individual, representative or senator, some can wield considerable power, but most don't. And let's be quite frank, we don't even know 3% of most of their names. So, but
Facts.
I mean, they're still movers and shakers, and they still have influence over policy. There's still foreign interests, corporations, and private people that are buying access to these individuals so they can influence policy.
Mhm.
And which is another reason why we need to get rid of lobbyists as well. Is not only just getting the money out of election politics, but also getting money out of active day to day politics,
Mhm.
because a lot of it comes down to whoever has the most money wins. And when it comes to profitability, efficiency is your best friend. Efficiency doesn't give a fuck about what anybody thinks or feels.
Mhm.
It just wants the best result that's best for whatever it is that's being efficient
Give me the
for.
results. Yeah, I have that mindset a lot too, and that's something that has served me well in business, but not always in interpersonal relationships. Um, but I like that bit you said about the UK having some laws against, misinformation. I think we need to adopt the same thing here because it's in my opinion, it's becoming quite problematic. It's everywhere. I mean, it's literally everywhere. Um, but yeah, I think I don't know what's to be done. It when you talk about majority rule, for example, what could be more appropriate than majority rule, right? So we've overlaid on top of
Logical rule.
well, right. So we've overlaid on top of majority rule, right? Like when you think about Congress, you've overlaid the Senate on top of that, which kind of equalizes representation. But what else can you do in your mind? How do we form a more perfect union in terms of ensuring we get the correct?
The only way to form a more perfect union is through means that are very undemocratic and very anti-liberty. It would require society to lean completely on the science, completely on the data, and it would bring into, let's say, the conversation things, activities or beliefs that are not particularly even tolerated to be discussed.
Mhm.
Eugenics is one of these things in particular. Um, all right, you know what? I'm just going to go all the way in. I actually don't see a problem with eugenics.
Mm,
I see a problem with the fact that people run eugenics, because people have biases. And this kind of goes into your AI thing. The problem with AI though is that it started through human intelligence, so it will, at least at first, possess biases, but as strictly a computer and simply analyzing the data far more than we could ever hope to all at the same time, it's going to make decisions that may be in the best interest of of the best of humanity and the planet, but may not necessarily jive with what most people would think and believe.
Hmm.
And that's part of the reason why, like, I've turned to neo Malthusianism, because if people were just better stewards, we wouldn't have to reduce the population.
Hmm.
But most people are shit tier stewards of the environment and the resources we have. There was a discussion just in the gardening group that I'm in today. There was a method of, like, basically applied PVC and rocks a couple of feet into the ground to help water the deeper roots of a tree that you're planting. People said things like, well, in Virginia, there's very little of any risk of water scarcity, even for generations. Well, they didn't actually say that part, but that part is true, generally speaking. Of course, climate change is a bit has exponential components to it, which could very much change that math. And other people said, well, I just water it the same way I water everything, and just get a hose and pour some water, and everything grows fine. I've mentioned that this is a class in efficiency right here. Why should I pour 10 gallons of water to water this tree, knowing that the topsoil is not able to absorb it that rapidly, so it's going to spread out and be wasted as far as that particular purpose is concerned, and not be able to get to the deeper roots of the tree? Of course, people will say, well, nature does all the time. Well, nature isn't very efficient. That's why mankind keeps stepping in. Nature is always in a state of survival. This is getting into some Darwinism here, and I'm not even a big Darwin fan, but I've started to appreciate him lately. But
Natural selection, much?
um, yeah. So like, but the thing is that so why would I dump 10 gallons of water out to water a tree when I can put this PVC pipe in, which other people were saying, well, that's unsightly, or you need to put two in, or it needs to be uneven ground, and all these other things, when I can put 2 gallons of water down that tube and it does exactly the job it needs. So now I don't lose 60% of that water I poured out to evaporation going back into the atmosphere, and also the stress that it causes on the local environment or your locality to even get that water, which most people are using that water's been pre-processed. So we've had to put manpower, we've had to put labor hours into it,
Mhm.
we've had to put natural resources into it because those plants don't run off of no energy. And also we have to dump all those chemicals, the chlorines and all that such into it, and plus the research and development that goes into making these technologies more efficient over time or discovering new technologies.
Yeah.
So, anyways, to get back to the original point, is that one of the biggest tenets of neo Malthusianism is that we don't have to reduce the population if people just reduce their usage, and that's the good steward, philosophy behind it. And humans, especially us in the first world, or borderline first world as America really is, if you really think about it, um, then we overuse a lot of things. And like that discussion right there was very obvious. Like very few, like the minority were people like, oh yeah, this is more efficient. Most people are like, well, I can just dump water on it because people are lazy.
Mhm.
And this goes back. I think we had this conversation the last one. Humans, because organisms on this planet that naturally evolve are built for survival. Otherwise, your species is going to go extinct. So, in order to survive, you need to be the most efficient. And to be the most efficient, you need to be gaining the most calories or whatever it is, or whatever resources you need, while expending the lowest amount of calories. Unfortunately, technology moves a whole lot faster than evolution. So our brains are not catching up to the fact that we have this ability to be more efficient,
Mhm.
and we don't really have to be that lazy to save the same amount of calories and time to get the same amount of output. And that goes into our education system, which isn't really meant to teach people critical thinking. It's really meant to teach people the most basic skills so that they can go get a job and immediately contribute to the economy and the merchant and higher classes from there.
Mhm.
They don't need us to be smart. They don't need us to be critical thinkers. They certainly don't need us to
Or
question
don't want
things.
us to.
They just need us to obey.
So, yeah, I think it's a matter of ignorance, right? Willful or otherwise, right?
As Socrates said, the only evil is ignorance.
Yeah. 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 Yes. I,
I would put that more like willful ignorance, but
well,
you know,
yeah, yeah, but I think you always should be in the pursuit of eliminating the ignorances that you're aware of. So, like, if you know that you don't know anything about agriculture, for example, or enough, then you need to educate yourself in that area. because it,
Um,
I would love to just pour out 2 gallons instead of 10, right?
well,
And
that's
get the
another thing.
results.
I actually had this conversation this morning too. See, this is why, because I just go through all these triggers. Um, like people were talking about, well, I'm not going to get into a specific thing, but like basically French things that most people don't even study in any sort of seriousness.
Mhm.
I think is extraordinarily arrogant, and arrogance is a combination of ignorance and confidence. By the way, it's extremely arrogant to think that just because you don't believe a thing, it simply doesn't exist.
Oh,
That is not how reality
well,
works.
welcome to
But most people
50% of
operate
America
that
these days,
way.
right? Because that's
Well, social media has further enabled
Mhm.
this. People just see what they want to see. They get that reinforcing vision, and they believe that is the truth because that's what they already believed to begin with.
Right, right.
And that goes back to the education system. We're taught to follow follow ABC. This is how you do things. So when you're taught to follow a process, you're not going to most people do not naturally think outside of that
Mhm.
process. A lot of companies, high performing companies in Silicon Valley, got where they are because they purposely sought out lazy people that thought outside the box, because they're trying to do things as quickly and simply as possible so they work as little as possible. This goes back to efficiency.
No.
But the course of perception is, if you're lazy, you're not contributing. Lazy people just want to like not waste their energy. Like lazy people, there's two types of lazy people. Don't get me wrong. There's actual lazy people, and there's people that don't want to that want to work smarter and not
Mhm.
harder. It's a phrase that's used in the military a lot. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard that crap in basic training, and after it was a big phrase in the army: work smarter, not harder.
Mhm.
But most people would just work easier and not smarter.
Right,
So we don't even get to the hard part.
right. Well, there's a way to tackle the hardness, but I wanted to touch on your comments about population, overpopulation, or reducing population, rather. What do you think about this phenomenon that's been discussed about population collapse? And that's what we're facing in a lot of developed countries.
Well, you see, the thing is, I don't think the population caps would necessarily be a bad thing. People just look at it like, oh, there's going to be fewer people, but those that are most concerned and most vocal about the population collapse are people of the most capitalistic nature, because capitalism requires a large population in order to grow. I mean, they groom us from birth to be consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So of course they want more consumers. This isn't a very hard paper trail. It's they got fucking neon green, glow in the dark paint leading the way to this trail, and and once again, people, because we want things easy, we don't want to make things hard on ourselves. We're just gonna go along with it so long as it makes
Hmm.
sense. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I got plenty of convenience culture stuff with me too, and I recognize and sometimes I struggle with it. Um, but my contribution is just trying to be as educated as possible, try to be efficient, and just be aware of those shortcomings and try and be a better
Yeah.
steward. Like I mean, like even in my little indoor grow operation, with my little with all my veggies and my well veggies and some aloe, since that's not a veggie, it's a cacti, but whatever. Like instead of me just pouring water for me rinsing dishes down the drain, I have a bucket I keep by the sink and I pour it into that bucket and I use that to water my plants. It's extra effort, but it's shit that people don't think about that's literally wasting water. But just because we got a bunch of rivers, like in our particular state, we got we have the mountains, which of course which are the sources of many of those rivers. They're not particularly snow capped, but sure you can get a little bit from that. We have a great artisanal well system. We have lots of underground water, and then of course we got a whole bay of salt water that we can desalinate and use if we need to as well. And we're just in a part of this part of the country that gets a lot of rain. We've gotten a whole lot of rain in the last couple of weeks, which if you're a mushroom forager, you really enjoyed that. So like, yeah, I guess I'm sitting in the fridge. I still gotta rinse out and get ready, but um, it's just people were, and like,
It's the
this is one of the
shifting.
things that bug me about conservatives, and it goes into the whole cognitive dissonance thing. Like a lot of conservatives are outdoors people, like they'd be hunters, they enjoy parks or water boating, whatever the case may be. You would think those would be the biggest environmentalists out of the lot because they're the ones most actively enjoying
Right.
nature. Most liberals tend to be city people. The only greenery they see is that little 2 acre park a few blocks down
Right.
from them, unless they purposely travel outside to the city to see it.
Hmm.
It's very much a big picture versus little picture thing. And it's like I don't even really much care for the opinions of a lot of people when it comes to like living standards in very other countries because I haven't been to that many other countries, but it still puts me around 97% more, around the 97 percentile of Americans. Most people have never left the country. More than
Hmm.
95% have never even left the country. Most people haven't visited more than 3 or 4 states. How are you going to tell me anything about the world when you haven't explored it?
Hmm.
When all you get is your curated view, once again, curated view
Hmm.
of what you're going to see on the internet. You really have to go out of your way in many instances to get a pure, unadulterated view of what the world is truly like around you. And we don't want to do that because it's unfamiliar and people do not even like familiarity. This goes back to the little survival instinct. People do not like things that are different from them because we don't know what to do with it. Is this a threat to me? Is it a benefit to me? Does it just not matter? We don't know. And we don't want to put the effort into figuring that part out either. We'd rather somebody tell us. And usually we want that person to look, sound, and act like us.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm a fan of stewardship. Um, I think you don't have any business having a whole lot if you can't do something with a little, right? So I feel you on that. I think people should really pay more attention to that. Spend some more time working on just stewardship basics. All right, am I making the most of what I?
And it's a Christian principle too. Like, why do you not do applies to the environment too? Sorry, go ahead.
I don't
I just had to
know.
go. I just had to go there because that one's burned me up for
Well,
years and years and
well,
years.
well, most of the conservatives are also Christian nationalists, like a lot of them. So again, you would think, but we see on the other side the opposite is true. So, talking about threats, let's talk about a
Mhm.
quick existential threat in this whole Ukrainian war thing. So, you and I discussed this kind of offline, a couple days ago, but I saw your girl Tulsi Gabbard talking about who was she talking to? I can't remember who she was talking to, but she was being asked, what do you think the probability of nuclear war is given the evolving, situation in Ukraine? And she was like, I'm not sure, but we're not ready for an all-out nuclear war. What do you think if you had to put a percentage on it? If this doesn't go the way Putin wants it to go and Ukraine starts, grabbing territory and things like that, what do you think the chances are he deploys a tactical nuke to level the playing field?
All right, I was going to ask you for a lot of clarification there, but since you went tactical nuke, um, I put it around 20%. It's certainly on the table. I'm sure it's been discussed. Actually, that we know it's been discussed because I mean, he's talked about it way before anything like this occurred. So yeah, never mind. Yeah, it's absolutely been discussed. So I'm going to bump that to 30% actually now. I think it's about a 30% likelihood that he uses a tactical nuke. Now, where it's used, I don't know. I mean, do you do it to scorch some of the earth in Russia to wipe out that advance? Or do you start using that along the border to break down those defenses that Ukraine has built? And then it would truly force Ukraine into the table. If they were to go ahead and drop tactical nukes along those defensive lines on the Ukrainian side, they would not have a choice but to surrender. Oh, I'm sorry. They wouldn't have a choice but to at least go to the table, but it would be tantamount to surrender.
Mhm.
And Russia has the ability, they're just not using it because they're concerned that the rest of the world may actually, like, you know what? Let me stop. Just go ahead and 'cause I'm trying to think of like an analogy, like a really spicy one, but it's not coming up right now. But it'll come at some inconvenient time. But we discussed offline about about NATO and EU members still sucking up tons and tons of natural gas, literally natural gas, and also oil, fossil fuels, basically from Russia.
Mhm.
Yeah, some countries are working on some measure of energy independence or at least switching their sources. But the fact of the matter is, by the time this war is over, none of those countries can make a true transition,
Hmm.
not without causing far more fallout at home than they're willing to put up with.
Hmm.
Because once again, people don't want to be inconvenienced.
No, it's true.
First world, I mean, really, all parts of everybody likes convenience, but nowhere is there more stress in the quote unquote first
Do
world.
you think? What do you think the NATO response would be to a tactical nuke deployment? Do you think they would do anything?
No, not really. Yeah, they'll say some stuff, and they might say, "Okay, well, you can use, XYZ weapons that we weren't allowing to use before, or something like that, or maybe some emergency shipments will occur." But as far as like like any meaningful, impactful action that has severe consequences, absolutely not.
Mhm. So if that's the case, man, it really sounds like I just well, let me not say that.
It's hyperbole. It's the media. That's what they're gonna
Yeah.
do. But go
No,
on.
no, I agree. I agree. I just this is so pointless. I mean, I understand what Russia is after here. I just don't understand what NATO really hopes to gain that would be material in its acquisition, right? It wouldn't be like you gain Ukraine as a NATO member state, right? What does that really do for you? I mean, you control the breadgasket of Europe, I guess, but
Well, they don't need NATO to control that. The thing
exactly.
is, so yeah, that's not really relevant. It really just comes down to exactly what Putin wants, and that is that border region, so that way they have additional time if NATO were to launch a preemptive strike. Which I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't really believe that would happen. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, I take a very pessimistic view on many nations,
Hmm.
and these various alliances, which are honestly generally quite weak. Um, because of just how many allowances they do. Nobody wants to go full potato.
Hmm.
Everybody's trying. Everybody's working at brinksmanship. Nobody's gonna outbrink Putin except for Trump. like, like he's like Trump is literally the only counter to Putin. I didn't even know I was going this
No,
way,
you're
but I
right
mean, it's
though.
fact.
You're right
It's
though.
factual in nature. Like, I'm not taking Biden seriously. I'm not taking Kamala seriously. Like, whatever, bro.
Well,
But we know that Trump does have the FAFO mentality,
I
and
will give Tim Scott
that's
this.
not something that we've had a lot of in this country. Not for many years. Not really. Not since Roosevelt
But why
and the
not?
Rough Riders.
But why
Like
not?
he was 100% fucking around to find out. Really.
But why not though? Like if you're the commander in chief of the armed forces of the United States, the most powerful and advanced military on the face of the planet. So I think you could you don't even really need to hit anybody with a stick. You just need to show it to them. So like Tim Scott was talking
See,
to
no one's gonna.
somebody,
That's the
and
thing. They're not gonna tip their
well,
hand.
he said he was talking about what he liked about Trump, right? And he said that um, there were some forces in Afghanistan that they wanted to pull out. They were starting to draw down, and he was had a meeting with the leader of what was it, Al Qaeda or whoever, and
Yeah, we talked about this a couple podcasts ago.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
good.
So he pulls out the picture of the guy's house and hands it to him, and he says, "Not a single service person better get hurt as I'm leaving here." And he hands it to him, and it's like, "Here's a picture of your house. I know exactly where you're at." So do something with that. I mean, we should have been doing that all along. What did like? I don't know. I don't know what the problem is.
No, no. See, the thing is, to truly scare Russia, you had to show them some next level stuff, things that are so heavily classified that they're not going to use it until it is truly to that point. And that's why I don't even fear nuclear war because honestly, it's not as big of a threat as most people want to believe because the technology that we have very much under wraps and is still being actively developed and improved will eliminate a lot of that nuclear threat before it really becomes a threat. And also, a lot of nuclear weapons nowadays don't actually are designed to not have a great deal of long lasting fallout. So we're really running off a lot of older information, but it's very convenient for the scare tactics.
Talking about the new Star Wars
Um,
program.
I don't think that many. Oh, let me rephrase that. Like, I'm not afraid of Putin going nuclear or anybody else, honestly. And maybe it's just that part of me that wants to watch the world burn, but I really just don't think it's going to come to that. Whether it's by a surprise means of a normalized country being able to counteract these things through some of the more modern technologies we have, or whether it is other forces that have been mentioned in government briefings recently, in terms of these unknown entities that are flying around,
Hmm.
that there are documented cases of nuclear launches that were thwarted by unknown entities.
Hmm.
If you really want to get into the super deep stuff, but there really is some documentation on that.
Hmm.
Um, I believe, and we actually touched on this many, many episodes ago, when you're playing with atoms, the building blocks of the universe, it's going to have an effect on space time. And we don't fully understand what those effects are. And we don't, yeah, we don't know how that's really going to equate because, getting all sciencey and stuff, I think somebody said that to every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. I'm not really sure if literally ripping apart the fabric of space time is going to work out in very predictable ways.
I had no idea
But
that you were a
before we
quantum
get super
mechanics
super deep in
connoisseur.
the unknown territory, but yes, it's like, but yeah, I mean, I'm just not worried about it because I think there's a lot of factors at play, both realistic, physical, whatever, and theoretical that would prevent anything that deep from happening.
Yeah.
And plus, there's still a lot of checks and balances, even in those countries that we consider rogue nations. There's so many checks and balances to prevent just arbitrary nuclear strikes. Like, we're gonna know it's coming
Mhm.
in some way, shape, or form. There's not gonna be any surprise to it.
No, do you think Starlink has anything to do with that? Or I think the
Oh yeah,
military version
yeah.
has Star
Well, okay.
Shield.
I guess I think I was taking that. I think I was going a little deeper on that question than I meant because the surface answer is absolutely yes. um, Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that like, they're gonna know about that, but I mean, there's been rumors of weapons in space forever, but of course, but I mean, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Doctor Tyson, has said that space weapons aren't even practical, because X, Y, Z. I don't, whatever he said. It's on YouTube. You can find it. Um, and at least the way he explained it made sense. But of course, you can explain things to make sense, but it still doesn't actually make sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, anything that we suspect Russia has done, we're already doing
Yeah.
or going to do because they did it anyway.
Yeah.
So once again, there's not really going to be any surprises here.
Well, let me hand that over to you, man. I think I've covered the things that I wanted to cover. Anything you wanted to kind of touch on?
Not at the moment. Oh well, no, not that.
Nothing in a rabbit hole.
I kind of just kind of I want something that would like kind of tie into it, but no, because I mean, like I feel like we've touched on quite. Let's see. Let's see. What were the bookmarks? Um,
You had the hacking
let's see.
thing with Amani and Princess Di.
Oh, right. So yeah, there's some apparently doctored photos that made Amani seem more have a more traditionally effeminate look than Princess Diana.
Mhm.
But I mean, once again, that's people going back to getting their own confirmation bias is what it's called.
Mhm.
Thank you. There we go. I got it there. Confirmation bias. Like we already believe a thing or want to believe a thing. So as soon as we see something that reinforces it, that's the truth,
Right.
and we're not going to be interested in anything else than that. So I mean, I think more than anything, as we bring it home, is just the phrase like things aren't always as they seem is even more relevant now, more so than at any time in modern history. Um,
Oh, let me ask you this,
so
because this kind
so
of
like
ties
if
in.
if it, if it
This ties in.
yeah. If it makes you happy, research it. If it makes you sad, research it too.
What do you think that this whole preponderance of feelings over facts plays into that as well?
Yeah, of
That-
course. I mean, humans are emotional beings. We tend to chastise people that look at things from a strictly logical perspective. Sure, everybody loves Spock, but if Spock went full Vulcan, a lot of humans would not like the things they would not like the solutions that came down from that. Would they best benefit humankind in the long run? Yeah, they would. But you're not gonna like how it's gonna shake out in the short
yeah,
term. And those become books like 1985 and A Brave New World. Those are books based on a logical government operating under logical data, fact based
well, isn't that what
principles.
people are worried about though? That AI will take over and kind of make its way into governance and
Hmm.
original, I guess, ultimately decide to do away with all of us.
Yeah, and but like I said, it's once again, it's people don't want to be inconvenienced. We want what's easiest. We want what we want, whether it's good for everybody else or not. Everybody else be damned. I want what I want because I only get one life to live, and I'm gonna live it the way I want.
That's it.
And I mean, I get it. It's lizard brain as fuck, but I get it.
Yeah,
It's how we're programmed. But I mean, it's not what's best. And if you consider yourself a decent human and you love thy neighbor, shouldn't you be doing more things in their interest as well?
that's right. That's true. That's very true. Uh, Eat your heart out, Christian nationalists, right? Um, but also,
I ain't mad at y'all Christian nationalists out there, by the way.
well, but then there's also,
Jesus. I think he's a pretty cool dude. I ain't mad at him.
yeah,
I'm just mad at people not thinking things through.
and
That's the
that,
problem.
say that again.
I have problem with people not thinking things through, and that's a problem.
I appreciate it. Um, well, that's going to do it for me. Um, we appreciate you joining us on this episode of TBI Tuesday podcast. We really enjoy doing these videos for you, this podcast for you. Make sure you connect with us online. Check us out on all the socials. You can email us at 2blackpod@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram. And these videos are not only uploaded to Spotify, but also YouTube. So find us there.
And we're getting our Rumble started soon
Making
too.
some
I'm gonna make
noise.
sure I mention that we're getting that Rumble account up because YouTube was tripping. That's what we're supposed to talk
Oh, yeah,
about.
throw it in. Throw it in real quick.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I'm always willing to accept it could have been some user error because I was deleting some other stuff, but I just don't think I would have deleted the most popular video we had like several times over. Actually, probably by order of
Mm,
magnitude versus our other videos. That's how viral that short was going because we were talking about black men, many black men not wanting to vote for Kamala Harris and why that was. And apparently, I mean, possibly, theme seems to me that somebody took exception to that video and it somehow disappeared from her profile. No explanation, can't find any trace of it. Fact of the matter is, go back and check out that short because it's on the
yeah.
page.
And we
And it's
re-uploaded
coming to Rumble. It's definitely gonna come to Rumble. I'll make sure it's good over there.
it.
I'm gonna do a whole new version because I don't know if I can download that one, but you're gonna get it.
Well, check us out on Rumble here just shortly. So we love you. We
And
appreciate.
yes, let me go up on X and Facebook too.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that. But we love you. We appreciate you. We hope you have a great Tuesday. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon. Peace.
Peace. Until it's time to burn that shit down.